This movement. Well, you guys, I came in from Dallas today, and if anybody's been watching the news, you have seen that there's a major snowstorm that has hit town. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and got here. Yesterday was obviously very stressful. We're all well aware of travel issues because you come from all around the world. And so yesterday I couldn't help but to think of just this idea that, you know what, I am just allowed in this country to believe any way I please. And so yesterday I was really holding on to my faith strongly with my hands open, saying, Jesus, what is my assignment tomorrow? What do you want me to do tomorrow? Would you like for me to sit home and watch kids who are out of school, or would you like me to come and speak and use my voice as a survivor of 9 forms of abuse and trauma over the course of 40 years of my life? He's rescued me out of slavery, just like he did from the Egyptians, or rescued God's people from Egypt. And so I want to read to you two scriptures here, just to remind you of sort of where my faith comes from. And I think many of us in the Abraham faith have the opportunity to all hear this story in our holy books. The Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea. The water may come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and upon their horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal course, and the morning appeared. And as the Egyptians fled into it, the Lord threw the Egyptians into the midst of the sea, and the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all of the hosts of Pharaoh had followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained. Not one of them remained. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground through the sea, and the waters being a wall on either side to their right and to their left. And so I just want to remind you that while you might get tired in this movement, while you might get weary, we all have the opportunity to believe or not believe as a part of this movement, and we're fighting for that right for others. So let me not delay anymore and get back to my script. The Denial of Earth track has been put together by the incredible group of colleagues from diverse organizations from different regions and faiths who have the goal of bringing together civil society, survivors, and state actors to end violations of freedom of thought, of conscience, religion, or belief. We would like to start the session with 2 survivor testimonies and maybe a video if we can pull it up, maybe not, and a brief testimony from Pastor Nerren, who Indian authorities detained for 7 months for coming to bring aid to Christians in India. So without further ado, Pastor Nerren, you can take the mic.
And thank you for this opportunity to be here today. I am Bryan Nerren. I'm a pastor in Shelbyville, Tennessee, and missionary to Nepal and Northeast India for the past 21 years. In October of 2019, we were on our normal trip to host training conferences in Nepal. While traveling through India, I was arrested for trying to help Indian children. I was put into prison after an 8-hour interrogation and stayed there for 6 days. I was then held under house arrest for 7.5 months. 8 days after my arrest, a gentleman from the State Department showed up to see me. The meeting was very short, and he said that they had an agreement with the Indian government not to help, assist, or be involved with American citizens arrested, and they did nothing for me for 3 months. I worked my way through the Indian courts alone, and after 3 months, the embassy took interest and began helping me. One day, the local Rotary president came to visit me. Being a Rotarian myself, I thought this would be welcome help. I was very wrong. He became angry and said, "The best thing for these poor children is death. You Westerners lie to the poor, giving them hope. The poor have no life and privilege in India." He said, "You're going to prison for years, and I hope you die there." He went on to say, "India needs the death of 330 million people. India will be a Hindu-only nation. Every person will convert, leave the country, or be eliminated." This man was a local leader of the BJP party. From that first day, C.C. Howell of the American Center of Law and Justice started fighting for my freedom. Every day for 7.5 months, she called, texted, emailed me after those 6 days in prison. She quickly contacted Senators Lankford and Blackburn. Together, they pushed every button in Washington to get me home. They successfully convinced President Trump to get involved. They saved my life and my family. Today, we have the ability and the talent to save the lives of 330 million religious minorities in India. but will we do it? Yesterday, Fiacona released their annual report of persecutions of Christians in India just for last year, over 1,300 verified stories. In those 1,300 Christian stories, you should also remember that 10 to 20 times more Muslims were persecuted in India for their belief. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure and honor to welcome our keynote speaker, Senator Lankford. Senator Lankford has served 4 years in the U.S. House of Representatives he's serving in the U.S. Senate, since 2014. He has been recognized by many organizations for his work toward increased personal freedom, economic growth, and religious liberty. He worked to pass Resolution Res 458, calling for the global repeal of apostasy and blasphemy, and worked to insert appropriations language to provide support to countries who take steps to dismantle these egregious laws. Senator Lankford's also a former pastor. Please take it.
That's great to see you. Thanks for being engaged in this. This is hard work. This is one of those things that if you're getting engaged in what you're getting engaged in, you understand the progress will be made over years and over decades of time, and trying to be able to shift the direction. For those of you that are coming from around the world, welcome to America. We're grateful that you're here. Our nation was founded on this very, very simple principle that any person here could have their own faith, could change their faith, or have no faith at all and still be respected. We think that's a basic human dignity and a basic human right to be able to have people, as our founder said, to have their most precious possession, that they get to own that, their belief, their conscience, and to be able to live out the principles of that faith. It is our passion and desire, not just as Americans, but as just humans, as people, to be able to stand for that right for other individuals worldwide and to be able to speak out. Just returned from the Middle East and getting a chance to be able to speak to several nations and several leaders who are trying to be able to open up more for religious liberty and to be able to crack those doors open. It's a fascinating dialogue as they struggle through the process of what if. But quite frankly, it's an issue we as Americans faced more than 250 years ago. What if you allow people to be able to live their faith? Is that total chaos in a nation? Or does that actually now allow people to be able to thrive? We found it allows people to be able to thrive. And we want that value for every people in every nation everywhere in the world. We still have 84 nations that have blasphemy laws in the books. 84. And in the past 5 years, we have 41 of those nations have actually carried out a legal process based on their blasphemy laws. Many nations have said to me, and when I've had conversations with them and other leaders, hey, we have it on our books, but it's just an old law. We don't actually apply it anymore. We know that that's a hanging threat out there to people, that if they choose to apply it, they could apply it at any moment. That's why we did the blasphemy resolution in 2020, to be able to speak out as the United States Senate. It passed unanimously. This is not a partisan issue in the United States, that nations should not have laws in the books that restrict the right of people to be able to have a faith, change their faith, or to be able to have no faith at all and still be respected as both a human being and as a citizen of the nation. But let me raise one other issue to us, and then we've got folks that are going to give incredible testimony on this. And Bryan, thanks for your word there and for your tenacity. And I was a single person in a journey to be able to help in that process. But I'm grateful to God for your freedom and for your opportunity to be able to continue to be able to live and practice out your faith. But let me say this. While we talk about this, and many people come to government leaders and to say governments need to resolve this, and we do have a responsibility to speak, I continue to challenge people in the business community as well. There are businesses all around the world that practice their business and sell products to individuals within nations that they know live in oppression. And while I have access to different leaders to be able to pick up the phone and to be able to call them as a leader in the United States, they also have access as business leaders practicing business in those nations. Many of those nations want, for instance, American businesses to be able to come and do business. And when American businesses go and do business in a country and never bring up the issue of religious liberty, I have a simple question for them. The customers in that country and the employees that you have in that country expect you to be able to hold up a high value. The rights of individuals to be able to live their conscience and to be able to live out their faith. So I would encourage you, if you're a business leader, to choose wisely the words that you have
in the conversations that you have with government leaders in each nation that you cooperate with, to be able to push them on this issue of basic human dignity. There are lots of human rights issues that are out there. But we have found this most basic principle that if people are not allowed to be able to live their faith and to be able to practice their conscience, all the other issues are then disconnected as well. I had a fascinating conversation with a friend of mine this weekend who is on a corporate board dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Many different American corporations now have this internal board within their company dealing with what they call
diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it sparks this dialogue. And for my friend, and he and I were talking about it, he said for the first time their company internally had this conversation. What if two different points of view come up and they're in conflict with each other? Where do we go on that? What happens then? How do we practice mutual respect as a company? But the dialogue there, he said, then spreads out to issues of faith in this primary issue of what is core within each of us. And it started this dialogue about how do we allow individuals to practice their faith. Now, that was a company here in the United States where we have a constitutional protection to be able to guard individuals, but they're still having dialogue about how we're going to protect religious liberty in the United States. So for companies and for leaders, and specifically I would say to CEOs, we should challenge them. And I challenge them now, if any of them are listening in, to this simple principle. The places where you do business, the people that are there are not just consumers, they are people. And they deserve your conversation to the leaders of those nations to be able to step up and to say, this is a value that we as a company value, and we believe it should be valued for the people that we're selling our products to in your nation. That's an area we should continue. So in the days ahead, let's continue to be able to work together. Let's not lose hope, and let's not grow weary of doing what's good. There are areas of progress, and there are areas of the world that are going backwards. Let's continue to be able to do the work that we're doing, continue to be able to cooperate together, because we value the rights of individuals to be able to have a faith, live their faith, change their faith, or have no faith, and be respected as citizens of nations. God bless you. Thanks for being a part of this dialogue.
Thank you, Senator Lankford. That was such an incredible calling, I think, for all of us, and also to businesses to partner with ministries and those who are in the human rights movement. It's wonderful. Thank you for making that connection. So, folks, we're now going to move to 5 prominent denials of international religious freedom, which we plan on focusing over the next 2 days and finding solutions to those in our discussion groups this afternoon. So we're going to welcome up 5 people. First, Nathan Estruth. After him, we'll hear from Joseph Janssen, then Father Khai, Soraya M Deen, and Rabbi Blaich. So if we can start with Nathan, that would be great. You can find their bios on IRFsummit.org. Thank you.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Christine and Senator Lankford. Appreciate all of you being here. My name is Nathan Estruth. My wife and I have had the privilege to live and work around the world as executives at the Procter & Gamble Corporation. I retired from P&G, but now from life 5 years ago, and continue to be active in the business community. And I so appreciate the clarion call that Senator Lankford just brought to this discussion. You know, the mission of this conference is religious freedom for everyone, everywhere, all the time, which to make a reality will require everyone's commitment to help, not just here, but importantly in C-suites and boardrooms and factory floors. It's time for corporations to step up. We're going to have a session over lunch to focus on Nigeria and the persecution going on there. And we'll talk more about this, but I thought I might just highlight a sense of what businesses could do relative to the persecution that's actively happening in Nigeria as part of this brief talk. The atrocities against Christians, and especially Biafran Christians, are well established. as we have heard, yet somehow multinational corporations are in denial when it comes to this. They're in a hear no evil, see no evil mode, just doing business as business. And at the same time, these corporate leaders want to present themselves as virtuous, caring and valuing people, and doing what's right. That, quite simply, is moral incoherence. I want to stress, I don't believe these corporate leaders are evil. They just find it easier to not think about the atrocities going on in the countries in which they operate and sell their goods and services. And they especially find that so in Biafra, a region of Nigeria. It's just easier to say that you respect your employees and suppliers and communities in which you operate while turning a blind eye. It's easier as a corporate executive to turn your website black than it is to engage the Nigerian government on the atrocities that are happening around your very operations. It's easier to take credit for allowing Christians and other people of faith to gather as employees in your company, but not defend them and their families in the streets when they're being attacked. For perspective, Nigeria's gross domestic product is about $450 billion. Just the top 4 oil and gas companies, Exxon, Shell, Chevron, and Total, have market caps in total of $1.1 trillion and revenues of $1.2 trillion, nearly 3 times the size of Nigeria's total gross domestic product. And let's not forget Coca-Cola and Unilever, and yes, even P&G, where I was an executive. Microsoft, KPMG, Accenture, GE, and many others have very large presence in Nigeria, as they do in most countries around the world. They have leverage, they have a moral responsibility, and it's time they use it. And I think it's time that we help them do so. During my time as a P&G exec operating and leading in China, I saw and participated real time in how to respect, enroll, encourage, and enable people of all faiths and culture, whether they were employees, suppliers, or customers. Loving God and loving my neighbor is Christ's greatest commandment. And it informed and fit well with the very corporate culture building activities that I did as an executive. This is basic for multinational corporations. They do it every day. It's standard procedure when you operate as a global company. But when corporate leaders turn a blind eye to atrocities all around them, they undermine their own moral authority with their employees, with their suppliers, with their customers, and with their shareholders. It's time for us to help corporations step up and do the right thing in Nigeria and around the world when it comes to issues of religious freedom. They should use their leverage. They should speak up about the international consensus, specifically in Nigeria, to end the atrocities there. Now's the time for us to come alongside them, hold them to account, ask smart questions, break through the moral incoherence and denial that is their operating procedure today. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Senator Lankford, thank you so much for joining us today. If you guys want to give him one more round of applause. Off to serve this great nation, sir. We're praying for you. Without further ado, Mr. Janssen, if you would join us, please.
Thank you so much, Christine and Jubilee Campaign, for inviting me. My name is Joseph Janssen, and I'm from Pakistan-based Netherlands. And today I will be talking about Pakistan's blasphemy laws. Pakistan is a country which holds state religion is Islam, and which is tool serves as a drafting, devising policies, giving judgments, making laws, and giving judgments in the courts on the basis of their religion. Pakistan, there is no religious freedom in Pakistan. blasphemy laws are often used to settle personal vendetta, rivalry, any argument with other Islamic religion from minorities person because of their work or something. They can easily use as a tool to accuse that person that he commit blasphemy. Same time is the apostasy. Pakistan has constitution which give guarantee to practice any religion, to follow any religion, or permit to convert to any religion. But in practice, Pakistan's own national database authority, which issues a national identity card, passports, prohibit any Muslim to convert to Islam. We have the story of Nora, who is now married with a Christian girl, a Christian man, and then she was converted from Islam to Christianity, but she has 2 children, but she's unable to make her identity card. Her children are unable to make her identity card to live in Pakistan as a citizen of Pakistan due to the instructions of apostasy. Leaving Islam, vigilant citizens consider those people as apostates, and for apostates is considered as a blasphemy which carries death penalty in Pakistan. Committing death penalty in any circumstance, saying anything against Prophet or leaving Islam, you will be accused for blasphemy which carries death penalty from 295C or many other sections. I just want to recommend that Pakistan must repeal blasphemy laws and apostasy laws, and Pakistan must give religious freedom to all citizens to choose their religion, to have choice, to choose any religion they want. And I urge international community and here panel to do whatever they can do so that people can continue follow their religious freedom rights. Thank you so much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Father Peter Nguyễn Văn Khai, Redemptorist. I came from Vietnam. I was born and raised, and I have worked in communist regime. I have to fight their human rights violation. The communists forbade me to become a priest, so I had to study underground. I had to be ordained and do my pastoral works underground. And I had to pay the price, and I tried to live my God-given rights. In the past, the communists took various measures to destroy religion, and now they use all the tricks. They created state-sponsored churches and placed their members in the leadership position. If that fails, they use violence to suppress churches or bribe leaders of religion. The communists want to turn religion into tools for their domination. The Christians are comprehensively discriminated in every aspect of life. The communist regime now in Vietnam is essentially a red mafia organization. They collude with domestic and foreign capitalists to plunder the property of people and to exploit workers via hidden human trafficking. They do not respect justice and truth. They persecute everyone who prevented them from plundering. We, Catholics alone, over the last 15 years, have been persecuted in many places. The most notable incident is the Formosa affair. In 2016, the Formosa steel plant released a chemical waste into the sea that caused the dead fish to wash up on about 500 kilometers of coastline. Fishermen and farmers lost their jobs and livelihoods. Many Catholics who dared to seek justice were arrested and sentenced in prison. For example, Lê Đình Lượng, Nguyễn Năng Tĩnh, Bùi Tuấn Lâm. And there are ones of more than 69 prisoners of conscience in our country. A case in point, Nguyễn Văn Hóa, a young Catholic who reported on the Formosa incident, was sentenced to 7 years in prison. And in the last month, the police terrorized and beat him and didn't allow him to see his family, nor receive food and medical supplies. You may have seen picture of himself in the hallway. We Catholic, as well as believers of other religions, need to further commit ourselves for our cause of religious freedom. We also need the support of you, policymakers, government, and international organizations in this endeavor. Thank you for your listening. God bless you and bless our effort.
Two minutes. She says 2 minutes to talk about women.
And in the evening, 7:30 to 8:30, we're going to go deeper.
Okay,
So
thank you.
it's like a taste.
Thank you. Where do you think is the richest place in this earth? Without waiting for the answer, because I have 2 minutes, I think it is where women of faith are buried. The persecution and the discrimination of women at the intersection of religion and gender discrimination is huge. I am a woman who works in the margins, so I hear stories, I work with women. So my plea today is that we advocate for women, particularly. We can't get together and sing Kumbaya at interfaith dialogues. We have to be very courageous and curious to see how women are treated in those religious communities. Whether it be Bangladesh, where I met Shama, a 15-year-old child bride, who is given in marriage, I'm sure based on some theological perception, which is not my religion. It's an abuse of my religion. So I stand up for that. And in Sri Lanka, I want to share this story with you. This discrimination is pervasive. I was doing some training for a group of women, and in that was a Buddhist nun. She reached to me and said, we are denied the national identity cards by the government of Sri Lanka. Can you believe that? The male dominated theology in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a place where Theravada Buddhism is enshrined, but women, Buddhist women, are deprived of national identity cards. They are deprived of ordination. So what do we do in all these situations is something that I call you, because I myself feel like I'm a physician resuscitating a dead organ. This is that's my 2 minutes. So let us, when we talk about religious freedom, let us talk about religious responsibility, and let's hold everybody accountable. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rabbi Blaich. I'm the Chief Rabbi of Kiev and Ukraine. I moved to Ukraine in 1989, lived in the Soviet Union for a number of years, and have been instrumental in rebuilding the Jewish community in Ukraine. Ukraine is now under attack. There's a war going on. There's conflict going on. What is not really known to the world is that since 2000, Russia has been using religion as a tool. Following the footsteps of Tsarist Russia and Soviet Russia, they have been controlling and deciding on convenient religions and non-convenient religions, convenient religious organizations and inconvenient. And it's all done in a very, very open way of supporting those that support the government and persecuting those that do not support the government. The Chief Rabbi of Moscow has been forced to leave Russia because he had did not speak out in support of the war, which is basically an attack on Ukraine. We see it as a national genocide rather than ethnic genocide. I personally was offered by the Russian Secret Service to work for them as Chief Rabbi of Ukraine, on the condition that I'll support what they do. Right now, Ukraine is under attack. Any Ukrainian religious people within the occupied territories, their churches are shut down, taken away. Synagogues have ceased to function within all the occupied territories as well. So we see how freedom of religion, as was mentioned here on paper, doesn't always mean freedom of religion in practice, and even freedom of religion sometimes means, as we heard, freedom of certain religions and convenient religions. And I want to thank you all for convening, for coming, for participating, for inviting me. I want to mention Agudath Israel of America, one of the convening members, whose representative is here, who has been very supportive of religious freedom throughout the former Soviet Union over the last 35 or 40 years and even more. And thank you all for everything you're doing. God bless you, and may you continue to be successful in bringing the world's attention to this important point, that we may all live in harmony, respect one another, and respect each other's beliefs. Thank you so much.
Well, we've heard some things here today that seem impossible, but as the scriptures that I read this morning as a Christian, I believe that God is able to do the impossible. Many of us believe that, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, Buddhist, so with God, all things are possible. So thank you all to all of our panelists. It is now my great pleasure to hand over the baton to David Burrows, the UK Prime Minister's Deputy Special Envoy for Freedom of Religion or Belief, to moderate the panel on state efforts and to address denials of earth. It was my great pleasure to collaborate with him and the IRFA with regards to the UNGA resolution on the moratorium for the death penalty, which was the first time they had included language on freedom of religion or belief on the death penalty, which passed overwhelmingly in the committee. So thank you so much, and welcome up for Mr. Burrows.